To whom this video may reach, hello! My name is Ari Duong. I'm 19 years old. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the USRI student for the Don Wright Faculty of Music at Western University this summer, which is 2026 if you're watching this and it's not 2026. Under the supervision of Dr. Adam Patrick Bell, I was hired to assist in conducting interviews upon the subject of post secondary music students and their experiences seeking accommodations. Unfortunately, I did not come close to producing a song or a short film as initially planned, but I came up with even cooler things throughout the duration of this internship. The first thing I plan to develop and implement is a health hub within the music building at Western. I still need to come up with a cheeky, catchy name, but the idea is like a low sensory space where students can come and wind down between classes and rehearsals. Music is a program that has students in the building in class from dawn and then practicing till dusk, often longer each way. Often, I would find myself wanting to be alone for a bit or rest on a couch, so I'd go to the student council's office. But then there was a time that came where no longer wanted to be a part of the council, but I didn't want to give up the space, so then I forced myself to keep being in it because I was like, I want to keep using the couch and napping. Because like I just get so tired during the school day. It was then that I realized other students who do not partake in such extracurriculars did not have the privilege of a space like that, which is so important. Where are students supposed to go if they're stuck in this building all day and want to be alone for a bit? Upon attending ISME, an international conference on music education, I learned that a silent room is a common accommodation at other universities. A question that people have asked me is if Western already has a health hub silent room concept somewhere else on campus, and I've tried to look into that, but it seems like a space dedicated to a student's rest doesn't exist. And even if it did, it would likely be across campus, and if you're a music student, you know that sometimes you only have 15 minutes to find somewhere to crash before your next 4-hour rehearsal. We live and breathe in this building, so it would be extremely beneficial to have somewhere to quickly recharge in the building as well. After the midterm reflection, I have since found a potential room to build the vision. The music library in Talbot College has a dark room connected that is supposed to be like a quiet study space, and nobody uses it, and from what I've heard, it wouldn't be too difficult to move the desks to redesign into a rest space. I envision this room to be dimly lit with fairy lights and low, warm, or colored lamps. It will have couches with pillows and blankets. I'm thinking leather couches so that they can be easily sanitized. New couches are expensive, so I would source them secondhand from thrift stores or online, like on Facebook Marketplace, and then have them cleaned meticulously. Students don't have to use pillows and blankets if they're scared of germs, or they can bring their own and keep them in their locker. Or I guess I'll apply for funding so I can have these things cleaned periodically. Something else that I really want for this space is a fridge. I know that's a big ask, and there's a lot of potential obstacles, but again, we're in this building all day and we need sustenance to function, but there's no access to a fridge unless you're on the music student council. The food options on campus are all the way up the hill and can be expensive if you're relying on it all the time. And if you're practicing for like really early or really late into the night, then they're definitely not open. And they're not open sometimes on like weekends. And there's an eatery inside of Talbot College, but it's also expensive and only open at odd hours during the day and closes at 3 p.m. when we have class until like 5:30. So it kind of renders it useless if you're practicing again on weekends or if your rehearsal ends at like 10 p.m. So that being said, music students end up starving all day because we cannot afford to eat out. And, if home is too far, then you can't go home to cook. And often there's not enough time to go home and cook within like an hour or two between classes. Um, so a fridge is a risky game, but it would allow students to store lunches and dinners in these scenarios. If stealing becomes an issue, it can be dealt with using a supervision plan, like maybe like it'll have office hours and someone who wants to can sit there, or we can set up a camera. And like no one's gonna like sit there and like survey the camera, but if someone's lunch keeps getting stolen, then we can try to see and figure out who it is. But I think that music students are empathetic enough to know better than to steal from a fellow musician. Like, I feel like if I could entrust anybody with food in a fridge, it would be like a theater kid or rock kid. Um, Anyway, I want to be ambitious and try to get my hands on enough funding to buy small, non perishable snacks and juice boxes to leave in there. I've definitely had days where I forgot to bring food with me in preparation for a big day or a big performance, and it just slips my mind to bring food. And there was no time to go anywhere, so I went all day without food and ended up being sick and lightheaded, which affected my ability to study or practice or perform. I imagine other students would also benefit from a small nutrient pick me up, especially if they have a health condition that requires sugar. Another thing I heard at the conference is that music students don't know how to practice or study. We either don't practice until the last possible moment and overwhelm ourselves, which leads to bad work, or we practice way too much and burn out shortly, not knowing how to get back up without burning out again. All of the above results in mental health decline, and this is especially more susceptible to neurodivergent students. Within this Health Hub, I want materials that can help students thrive academically as well. I'm not the smartest student by any means, and I definitely cannot single handedly tutor other music students, especially since I'm also early within my degree, and I'm honestly not that good at anything music related. But I am a neurodivergent student that had to get academic accommodations in order to thrive. That doesn't mean I'm stupid or lesser than my fellow musicians, as much as I tell myself that those things are true, they're not. It just means that my brain functions differently, and I understand all too well that other students may experience this and not even know, especially if they're first years or unaware of their disability, hence having no idea how to navigate that, and no one really talks about it. Of course, this renders true for neurotypical students that may struggle as well. Something that is accessible is something that makes everyone feel safe and thrive. Within this space, I can leave my contact as well as resources that may help students that are struggling with their academic, mental, or physical health. I'm not a professional, but a fellow peer that may have gone through the same struggles, so I can at least lend a listening ear on an individual level or guide people to the right direction. When I was on my journey to get my accommodation, no one in the faculty was there to tell me about it or told me what to do, how to do it, or who to talk to. I think that if I had the information early on, I could have been thriving from the beginning. One last thing I want for this hub is to be a sex positive space. I think sex education is really lacking in our high school curriculums, and many students leave home for university for the first time, knowing little to nothing about how to practice safe sex. Of course, this is important for all university students, but I think there is especially something to be said within music culture that really inspires sex education to be really important. Faculty, cast parties, concerts, sweaty music venues, late nights, not getting enough sleep, alcohol, drugs, stress, and little sexual awareness leads to potential recipe for disaster. Don't ask me how I know, don't ask me what I know. During my first year, many of my friends came to me in the middle of the night asking about contraceptives and fear of pregnancy. Because I'm a year older and they think I'm wise. And I've already gone to college. And, what happens in college stays in college. What happens in theater school stays in theater school. Anyway, one of my first ever hangouts with a friend was walking him to 7-Eleven so that he could buy condoms because his girlfriend was coming to visit him at the dorm. I thought, like, there really isn't someone better than me to go to about this. Like, I've just got a very open, welcoming vibe, I guess. But, university students are going to have sex, that's just a fact. The thing I'm concerned about is keeping them safe so their passion for music and academic careers are not hindered. A variety of condoms, small bottles of lube, contacts of how and where to get STI testing and sex clinics, external local resources to educate themselves or get the help they need. I would have those kind of things in the room. Is that too much to ask? Much more organization has to be done on this, but I plan to work on this project for the next few years of my undergrad, as it might take time to get my hands on the permission to redevelop the space that I want, or on enough funding to buy all the equipment that I need. I've been in touch with many music educators from all over Canada and an occupational therapist to get as many points of view on this space as possible. When the school year starts, I'll reach out to the administration within the faculty with my proposal. If that room doesn't work, I can try to get my hands on an office on an upper level of Talbot College and turn it into a single use room where a student may book it and I can give them the keys to the space, or it can be an open concept where there's a slider on the door that says vacant or occupied. As for funding, our Student Music Council does do this gift fund thing during the fall and spring semester, so I will apply for funding through them as well as external grants. Someone at ISME said something that made me chuckle. What's sexy right now is well being. And she was an old lady, and it was really funny. She's right. Well being is so in trend right now, and we artists will be able to lavish in sexy well being when we have the facilities to take care of ourselves within our education. Okay, well, that was my pitch. Whoop. Oh, you thought this video was over. I'm so sorry, but I've got you for like another 10 minutes with an even bigger, more ambitious pitch. So earlier I had mentioned that I was originally hired to help conduct interviews. The topic, which I will remind you, is about disabled music students and their journey seeking accommodations, which was originally coined by my fellow research assistant, Cadwyn Boyd, during their undergrad, and they have recently just graduated. Upon meeting, I asked them what they saw as the end product of our research. They had listed a few academic options to me, such as an article, a slideshow, or a pamphlet, to at least educate instructors about our findings. But, another option called my name, a list of recommended accommodations for post-secondary music students at Western University. So Cadwyn and I started brainstorming some ideas before I left for the conference in Ottawa, where I met many professionals from working musicians to fellow students and music educators to other disabled artists that found significance in our work. I was told that as far as we're concerned, a document like this doesn't exist at a music school in Ontario and maybe in Canada. Along with my lived experience of being a disabled music student, I learned so many shocking things at this music conference. Things that shouldn't be of practice, things that hinder music education for both students and instructors alike. Teachers aren't trained to understand disabilities, therefore have no idea how to teach a disabled student. The reason many conservatory music programs remain not accessible for disabled students is because the structure of conservatory learning has acquired a tradition, a culture of training students to be the best, no matter at what cost. The root of this issue is systemic. It is said that instructors and faculty are unfavorable towards disabled music students because they don't fit into the image of a classical musician, or instructors must do extra work to catch them up, or we are preparing them for the real world. The burden of getting accommodations lay with the students that need them, which take time, effort, and money, all of which are limited, especially during the academic year. Students that seek accommodations are required to provide medical verification every term. A music instructor at ISME deemed that was devious, that it seemed like the administration wants to get education for disabled students even more difficult. Even after providing medical documentation, many students likely will not acquire the help they need because they don't know what they can ask for in terms of music-specific accommodations. There is an unspoken expectation within specialized conservatory classical and jazz music programs that students need to push themselves to absolute limits so they can be this picture-perfect image of a musician, and if you are different, you must not be good enough. That you must not have what it takes. Being disabled doesn't mean you're any less capable than your neurotypical able-bodied person. It just means you need different means to reach the same goals. University accessible education advisors likely do not know what training in a music program looks like, as it is vastly different from other majors. They may grant a student more time on tests or taking an exam in a different room, which may be helpful in some ways, but it doesn't target any of the classes that are music specific and hands-on, for example, a performance class or ensemble. That's why a document with recommended accommodations would come in handy and give the student, instructor, and administration an idea on how to navigate the student's needs together. I envisioned this document to have broken down all the required BMUS music classes, namely music theory, music history, general integrated musicianship, applied study, and ensemble, dissect how these classes are inaccessible, and find solutions that are fair and will aid a potential student. For example, a component of music school that freaks almost all music students out is sight singing class. Students that have intense difficulty focusing on multiple things at the same time will find this class extremely intimidating. I myself nearly failed out of this course first year because I would rather not go and fail than embarrass myself in front of the TA. A way to accommodate this is to break down the tasks. Instead of having to sight read, find the key, connect solfege syllables, accurately sing the pitches, and conduct on the spot, maybe the student can sight sing the piece and conduct the piece separately. If a student processes information slowly, instead of 2 minutes to look over the piece, maybe they need to have 10 minutes to prepare instead. Another example is with applied study. I have diagnosed social anxiety disorder, and I find the concept of masterclass intensely mortifying. Like, yes, I want to be a performing artist one day, but performing for a crowd is not the same as performing in front of your fellow musicians, being given criticism, and being expected to implement the technical changes on the spot. Many neurodivergent students may find this learning environment to be harsh on their mental health because it is anxiety inducing, because the criticism leads to feelings of embarrassment and rejection, or because they can't process how to make these changes right away. Often I would cry because I wouldn't know how to do what the instructor was telling me, and I felt so embarrassed to be in front of my peers and not know how to do it right away. I understand that these feelings of embarrassment and rejection are going to appear if a music student continues to pursue music professionally. You feel these feelings when you don't do things right all the time, no matter what in life, but there is no reason that the learning environment has to be that scary, and there just isn't. I've been pondering masterclass alternatives with my other music educators. We've come up with ideas like a mini masterclass format where a student may perform first or last during the class so they can still have an audience but with a smaller portion of the class. People of their choosing, people they trust won't judge them. Something that will make them feel more comfortable. Another potential solution could be private time to practice before sharing. For example, a student could be given comments during one masterclass, practice those things on their own, and show the result during the next masterclass, or showing a video of them doing it that night. If the masterclass doesn't work for a student at all, there must be smaller performance tasks that a student can complete to add up to the grade needed for the masterclass portion of the course. Contract grading different tasks, different tests, different assignments that can combine to be equal may allow a disabled student to feel more comfortable and well prepared in comparison to a masterclass or a jury that seems like a very big task and a lot of pressure. I feel kind of stupid for talking about this specific idea because what kind of performing artist can't handle social anxiety and needs an accommodation for a performance class? That's what I chose to pursue with my life. Um, but then I remember a disabled artist at ISME told me to think of music school as an institution that trains the core competency in the musician. Accommodations are not taking the easy way out, they're just a different means to complete those core competencies that are expected of us. Having a list of recommended accommodations would help disabled students pinpoint what exactly they're struggling with and have some idea of what they need. On the same hand, this document would aid instructors better understand a student's needs and how they can teach the student accordingly, in a way that makes them feel the most comfortable. I probably said this already, but people often forget that accessible things are not just for the benefit of disabled people. When something is accessible, its goal is to help all, if not as many people as possible, have access to it. An example I loved hearing was the inaccessibility of stairs. The second you install a ramp, not only does it help people who use wheelchairs or mobility aids, but now a mother with a stroller, or a person pulling a suitcase, or a person walking a bike can now have access to the upper floor. Accommodations are helpful for students, instructors, faculty, and staff all around, especially when it comes to physical accessibility. I'm neurodivergent, so I can put my own experiences and themes I've observed from my disabled friends on the table to think of academic accommodations for each course. But upon interviewing my fellow research assistant, Kadwin, I realized that there is a huge world of physical accessibility that I never considered because I'm not physically disabled. That being said, I am only one person, and though we conducted a few outstandingly interesting interviews this summer, I recognize our sample size is very small compared to the size of the end goal result. There is an immense amount of more work and research that has to be done in order to produce the end goal that I want. I want to take this project much further, attack the monster at the root, and rebuild the structure of conservatory music education. Implementing institution wide mandatory training for instructors on understanding disabilities in students and how to navigate that. Providing guides, resources, and evidence for students, faculty, and administration from the beginning to prevent students from falling in the deep end before seeking accommodations. Inspiring music schools to acquire music specific disability support, such as hiring or at least contracting an advisor or a therapist or a counselor specifically for understanding neurodivergence and disability. And guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Word on the street is universities in the States are already doing these things. I am jealous and equally motivated to take steps towards building change at my own university. If we can do enough research and develop this list into a functioning resource, it will change everything moving forward for disabled artists in a post secondary education environment. It can become a model and spread to other universities in the nation. That being said, I want to clarify that music schools are not the villain. Lack of understanding towards disability awareness and resources is the mutual enemy. All I want to do is give a little push towards building a more inclusive and welcoming school where everyone can pursue their dream without their disability being an issue or a factor of stress. Everyone deserves to feel like they are good enough, that they belong here. Yes. As a final reflection on this internship, I am super content with what has come of it. Never in a million years did I think I would be able to come up with all these surprisingly interesting ideas and work on projects that will help many music students in the future. Fingers crossed. During the USRI, I got to learn so much about accessibility. I managed to be brave and articulate my work to connect with so many like minded, cool musician people from all over the country and all over the world. I grew as a student and as a musician, but most importantly, I found something I care deeply about. Of course, music is my one true passion in life, but there was one time or a period of time in my life that I wanted to study psychology and be a lawyer because I wanted to help people. I want my music to help people, and pursuing this work has been the perfect combination of both, with my identity as a disabled musician just being another added bonus. These projects are huge and will require so much more of me. I know it's way bigger than I can chew. I think I might end up having to do a master's degree. Maybe I'll end up having a PhD. I don't know. I kind of hate going to school. No offense, Western. I love you guys. But I think schooling's just not, I just never, I don't know. I don't want to be in school for that long. School stresses me out. But I love this project so much that I can see it being a possibility now. And I anticipate losing a lot of battles against organizations for grants, against administration and faculty, against ableist people who don't understand. But I'm prepared for combat if it means helping artists get the education that they deserve. My favorite overheard quote from ISME, someone said, "Culture eats policies for breakfast." And to that I say, I'm starving and ready to eat. Booyah. Thanks for watching my super long video. I hope you think my work is cool. And if you want to contact me, this is my email. I hope you found that entertaining. And I hope that was good. Okay, bye guys. Thank you for watching my video.